morning, everyone, and welcome back to Rita's Delicious Dishes. Today I've decided to go back to my heritage, and I'm going to make two special things for you. One is a soup, and I know it's summertime, but I do enjoy soup all year round, and I'm hoping you do too. And it happens to be my favorite soup of all soups that I make, and it's called Greek egg lemon soup, or avgolemono. To those of you who are Greek and understand that word. It is quite delicious. When I make it and I give it to friends, they are so stunned by the texture of the soup. They tell me it's like eating velvet. It is very velvety soup, but it's got a little lemon taste to it. It's very lightly lemoned, and it's quite a soup. It's made with just very few ingredients. So I started the broth this morning earlier because it takes a long time to heat a big pot of chicken broth. So we're going to start with the chicken broth. It's nice and hot and boiling, and I'm going to put I have about 4 quarts of chicken broth in here, and I'm making a lot of soup because I want to share with some friends, as well as have enough for us to have it a couple of times with our dinner or at lunchtime. So I'm going to dump about 1.5 cups of orzo, which is just a rice-shaped pasta, into the hot boiling broth, and I'm going to let it do its own little job of cooking, and it's going to take about 10-12 minutes, so that's why I'm starting the soup, so that orzo will be cooked when we go to finish the soup. I give it a little stir. Every once in a while you want to give it a little stir so the orzo does not stick to the bottom of the pan, because it will want to do that. And you're going to have it like over medium-high heat, so it has a nice little slow boil. You don't want it really boiling. You just want like a little slow boil. Not a simmer, but a slow boil. So the pasta will cook in that amount of time, about 10 or 12 minutes, because we don't need to spend a lot of time cooking the soup, so don't waste it putting it on a low heat. In the meantime, I'm going to make the second dish, which is spanakorizo, which is Greek spinach and rice that's topped with crumbled feta when it's finished, and you generally is a side dish because there's no protein in it, so it's more like a side dish. You can add chicken to it, or you can have beef in there or pork if you like to add something to it, but it is generally a side dish in the Greek food line. So I'm going to start with first thing I'm going to do is cut some garlic. So many of you know that when you want to take the outer skin off, you just use the flat side of your knife and give it a little bang, and it'll peel right off, and set that stuff aside so it doesn't end up in the pan. I'm going to do 4 cloves. There's 2 smaller ones and 2 large ones. Generally, you use 3 fairly good-sized cloves, and I do trim a little end off because there's a little nub there that kind of doesn't look very good to me or feels very hard. So I always take those off. Some people don't, but I always do. So you notice when you hit it a little bit, this outer layer comes right off pretty easily. And then I take that little nub off each one. I see there's a little sheath still on here that I don't want in my pan. Sometimes if you don't give it a good bang, I evidently didn't do a really good bang with that one. And then the last one coming up. There we go. That was a good one. So, and once in a while you'll see a little piece of your garlic that might have a little brown mark on it. I always take it off because you don't want to be eating that. It looks like it might be starting to go bad, but it's still very fresh. I want to tell you all, though, sometimes I have garlic for a long period of time, and if it gets really dry and light in weight, it has actually lost all its garlic flavor. So I just throw them away. It's not that expensive an item to buy, so I don't waste my time because I won't get the garlic flavor that I really am looking for. I'm going to give the soup a little stir because oh yeah, it smells so good. Chicken broth smells delicious to me. Everything smells delicious to me. I'm just a lover of all foods. So that's coming along nicely. I'm going to I'm going to mince up the garlic. So what I do is I just make little slices and then just come along sideways. You don't want big chunks. You can also mince it up a little bit after you get these pieces chopped. And I am using a flexible cutting board today because I'm just going to pick it up, and I'm going to turn my pan on medium heat. I have 2 or 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in there, and I'm going to warm it up. And once it's nice and warm, I'm going to put the garlic, onion, and parsley in there. And I'm going to saute that lightly for a few minutes. The garlic's coming along. The garlic is such a beautiful thing in dishes. It actually sweetens the pot sometimes. And garlic is so healthy for you. It helps you in every which way but Sunday. So I try and eat a lot of garlic. I just make sure everybody else eats it too. We're almost done with our garlic. Oops, that's the little nub end. Doesn't belong there. So then you can just go right in and chop like this. You want it fairly fine. It doesn't have to be tiny, tiny, but you don't want to be getting big clumps of garlic in your mouth either. So, yeah. Nice amount of garlic. Oh, it smells wonderful. And by the way, if you ever have garlic on your hands and you can't seem to get the smell off your hands, if you take a lemon and you cut a fresh lemon, you will you rub your hands with the lemon and then use some soap and water. You will remove that smell of garlic from your hands. And it works every time like a charm. So I cut my, this is a Vidalia onion. I peeled it and cut it in half. And then I sliced through it, just like I did the garlic. You just cut right through and you get a nice, beautiful shavings of onion. And I am going to use the whole one because onion also sweetens the pot. And I happen to love onions. It looks like a lot, but when it comes together, it really gives the dish a wonderful, wonderful flavor. When you get near the end, you're not going to be able to hold it, so you want to watch your fingers. I'm hoping I don't start crying from my onions. I can feel them burning my eyes already. Woo! And there is no, I have never found a solution to burning eyes from onions, and if anybody has one, please let the station know so I can utilize it, because I've never found anything to help me with that. But I try to do it as quickly as possible and still get them cut up the way I need them. Remember, sharp knives are very important if you're going to be cooking, everyone. People hurt themselves more with dull knives than sharp knives. I know I mentioned that before, but it's so true. I don't take my eyes off the knife at any time because I'm afraid I'm going to cut myself. Oh, it's really getting to me now. I'm glad I'm done. Just bring this over here. Get all that. Wonderful. I'm going to drop the heat a little bit, move this around. Beautiful garlic and onions. What's better than that, everyone? Oh, it's going to be a delicious dish. When you top it with feta, and I did leave my little container of Dodoni feta over here. I have talked about this before. This is the finest feta cheese you can buy. The only place I know that carries it, one is Big Y in Kingston, and they don't always have it. I've been there a couple of times and they have been run out, but they said they're still carrying it. But you can almost always get it at Market Basket. Although I had a couple of people tell me a couple of weeks ago they went down all the way down there and there was none on the shelf. So it just leads me to believe that a lot of people are watching the show and going there to buy the cheese. Therefore, they're running out. So I'm actually going to talk to the store manager and tell him what I do and how I promote it, and maybe he can bring more in so people will be able to get it whenever they need it. So we got this simmering a little bit. We're going to let it soften up. I'm going to kick the heat up a little bit so it gets moving. I don't want to burn the garlic, though. It's most important that you don't throw the garlic in and forget about it, because once it gets burned up, it gets a terrible flavor. So we want to keep that kind of like a medium temp. You can almost hear it sizzle a little bit. We'll get back to our soup, which is coming along beautifully. The orzo is starting to boil to the top. Once you start to see it come to the top, you'll know that it's really, really getting the job done. The broth is getting the job done. It's beginning to cook really, really well. But you still want to stir it, because sometimes there are pieces that stick to the bottom, and you really don't want that to happen. There. Okay. In the meantime, I started some eggs this morning. I beat up, and I'm going to rebeat them, because the mixer makes a lot of noise. And I'm sure you'd hear it loud and clear at home when you watch the show. So I beat them up this morning for a little bit, just to get them a little frothy, but I'm going to rebeat them. They're halfway there. And then I'm going to add some lemon juice to the eggs. In the meantime, before I do start that though, I'm going to remove some of the broth, because I'm going to need it to put in with the eggs and the lemon when they're beaten together. I don't want the broth too hot. If it's too hot, it's going to cook the egg, which I do not want to have happen. I want the egg to stay smooth and not become pieces. So I took about a cup of broth out, which is plenty, and I'll add that back in when it's time to do that. So, oh, these are coming together lovely. So fragrant. I'm sure my camera guys can smell it. Sean and I are waiting for smell-o-vision, which we hope will come soon. And I'm going to start the mixer, and I apologize for the noise, but there's nothing we can do because we have to mix. I put about 6 eggs, 5 or 6, I think I put 6, and the juice of 2 lemons, which I have already juiced. It's sitting here. So I'm going to let this froth up. You want them to get very frothy. And because I did it most of the way this morning, it'll come right back around very quickly. All right, we're there. I'm going to add the lemon juice now and reboot the mixer, all right? I'm going to keep mixing and then add the lemon juice as I'm mixing. So I got to put it back on. Here we go. And you want to add it slowly. It really gets frothy when you put the lemon in. But the lemon is what really gives this soup a beautiful, beautiful flavor. There we go. You want to make sure you don't get any seeds in there, which is easy to do sometimes. Okay, let's get quiet for a little bit. There. Okay, we'll get back over to our pan. Things are starting to brown up a little bit, which is just perfect. This orzo is still cooking. It's got another 5 minutes or so, but this will take that time up and cook up our spinach and rice. So I dropped it to low because these are nice and soft and tender, and that's all we want. Oops, we're going to drop the parsley in. Parsley does not have to be cooked very long. I'm going to throw the stems away because they're of no use. Some people chop them up and use them. I do not. I want you to know that when you buy your parsley, please buy Italian parsley. It's a flat leaf parsley, not the curly parsley. I think a lot of people buy curly, but they are under the misunderstanding that that's the parsley to buy when you're cooking. It's actually more of a decorative parsley. It doesn't have the great flavor that Italian parsley has. So the Italian parsley is flat leaf. It's not curly. And you can actually smell the flavor difference when you're chopping it up. If you happen to buy the other one and in a pinch, like I've bought the other one in a pinch because I couldn't find the Italian parsley. And I do use a lot of it because it's also one of those things, it's not a powerful flavor, but it gives the dish a nice flavor, but you do have to use a good amount of it. And then I'm going to put it right in, and it will wilt down in no time with the onions and the garlic. There. Lovely. Okay, mix this in. And it doesn't really need to cook that much because we're going to drop some broth in there. So I have combined 8 ounces of chicken broth with 8 ounces of tomato sauce. You can use diced tomatoes if you'd like. I kind of like it just without the diced tomatoes and just the spinach and the rice and the tomato flavor. You could also use tomato paste if that's all you had and create about 8 ounces of liquid. So here we go. Oh yes, just lovely. Oh, it's really starting to get fragrant in here. Woohoo! There we go. I gotta keep my spatula. Set that over here. Give my hands a quick wash. Give the orzo a stir. Gotta make sure I'm paying attention to everything. Oh yes, it's beautiful. I love orzo. I truly love it. I don't like to put too much in here because I don't want it to be really thick and creamy. I just want it to be velvety. And the orzo is what's going to kick up the calories, so you actually don't want to put tons and tons in, just the right amount, and make it work. So once this gets to have a little boil, I have cleaned this morning. I decided to do this ahead of time because there's not always enough time in the show to do these things. I have cleaned the spinach. I bought a 1 pound bag of regular spinach. I don't use baby spinach in this. I use regular spinach. I only use baby spinach for salads. It does not have the strong flavor of spinach like regular big curly spinach has, and the fresher the better, of course. But spinach, as you know, wilts down. You can take a whole pound like this and you end up with this much. So you need to use a good amount of spinach to make this dish because you don't want it to be all rice. You want it to be like more spinach than rice. I like to have more spinach than rice because the rice, again, because it's it's like starch, it carries more calories than the spinach does. Spinach is like so low in calories and you want to have plenty of that in there. So this is come to a little boil. And now I'm going to add the spinach in batches. And I will stir it in and let it wilt because you can't add it all at once unless you have a huge pan, which my pan is pretty large. So just work that in. It'll wilt down in no time. You really, in the end, you do not want to have a lot of liquid in here. I mean, you can add a little more chicken broth if you need to add, to get the job done. But for the most part, I think what we added, one 8-ounce can of tomato sauce and 8 ounces of chicken broth should do it. But sometimes I fall a little short, so just add a little more in. There we go, wilting down pretty quickly. Oh, can't wait for dinner tonight. I can't wait to give the camera guys their little taste after the show. It's one of those fun things we do together. And it makes my heart sing when they say, oh, I can't even tell you how good it is. It makes me really feel good about my cooking. Okay, so we get that wilted down. We'll add another batch. I actually washed up, picked through all this, took the big stems off. I washed it really clean, and then I went in with my salad spinner and spun it really dry. You don't want the spinach really wet because then you're going to destroy the flavor of the base of the dish, which is the chicken broth and the tomato sauce. So you just want to keep working that in until it wilts down. I know it looks like a lot, but in the end, it's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be really, really less than you think. There's still plenty of liquid in there. And if by chance you add too much liquid, because sometimes I've done that, you know, I'm just not paying attention, or I'm talking to someone and I'm like, oh, there's too much liquid. You just take a slotted spoon and take your, remove your food from the pan and let the liquid remain in the pan. So you can fix things. So even if you botch it, you can always fix it. Or I always can fix it, I can tell you. It's not always perfect. Nothing's always perfect, but I really try hard to pay attention. So you'll see in the end what this is going to look like, and then you'll know the consistency that you're looking for. It's coming along nicely. I'll let that cook a little bit while I stir my orzo in my soup. Oh yeah, oh, so good. It smells so good, even though it's just pasta and broth, it just smells wonderful. It smells like Italy to me instead of Greece. I don't know why, because it's a Greek soup. Okay, come back over here. Look how it's cooking up beautifully. I put it in there as a pile, and next thing you know, the pile is gone. One last pile is going into the dish, into the pan. I can just dump this in. Get rid of the bag. So while this last bit of spinach is going to wilt in there, I'm going to show you the next little bit that goes into the bag, into the pan. I go and shop at Aldi's in Plymouth, ALDIS. It's next to, it's one light up from Walmart, and they sell this wonderful bag of brown rice. It's called Ready to Serve, Earthly Grains Ready to Serve Whole Grain Brown Rice. It takes 90 seconds in the microwave, but when you get it, it's kind of bumpy and lumpy, and it tells you on the instructions to get your hands in there and really break up all the lumps and bumps so that when you put it in the microwave, it comes out not all lumpy and bumpy and just kind of loose like it should be. So I did this a little earlier because it was really very, very lumpy, so it's pretty much there. And then you just tear the corner of the bag, just a little bit, enough for it to, and it's going to stand up in your microwave. We can take my little cover out because we don't need it. And for 90 seconds, in 90 seconds it's going to be ready. So we will put that in because it's the spinach and the mixture in the pan is almost ready for the rice. That's how quick and easy this is. I mean, this whole pan will take both things will take together no more than a half an hour. So beautiful. I love spinach, love, love, love it. I eat it in the morning with eggs. I have it for lunch, sometimes stuffed in a sandwich. Sometimes I make a spinach salad at night. It's one of the better greens for you to eat. So I'm not sure if we can get a shot of that, but there's hardly any liquid. There's just enough liquid left for the rice to get put in there. Oh, so good. While that's finishing up and the rice is finishing up, I'm going to grab my crumbled dodoni feta that I got ready this morning. It's in the fridge. Grab a couple of plates so we can plate it up. I think we're pretty done with this as well. Get rid of that. I'll give this a little stir. So the orzo is now cooked. I can tell by looking at it. You don't want to cook it to death because sometimes it gets big and fat and it gets like mushy. You kind of want it to have still have a little firmness, just like you would pasta. Pasta's supposed to, I like pasta al dente. I don't like it cooked to death. I like it to be a little bit chewy. So you want the orzo to be the same way. Okay. That's ready for the rice. Be careful with the bag because it is very hot. I'm actually going to use my little hand towel here, and I'm going to sprinkle it the whole bag, straight in. And just work it through the mix, very simply. Just work it all around so it's nice and evenly distributed. Oh, so good. There is a little bit of juice left, doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind having it with my food, but if you want to drain it a little bit with a slotted spoon, that's up to you, but I think it's kind of almost perfect with a little bit of juice, so I'm going to let it sit for a couple more minutes and do its thing. Kind of meld the flavors together. So I have it on a medium heat still. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, now the soup is ready. It's done. So I'm going to give it one more stir to get all the orzo off the bottom if there's any. And I'm going to turn the mixer on again because now I'm going to take that broth that I took out a little earlier and I'm going to put it in the mix with the eggs and the lemon. And I'm going to beat it in, always on high beat. Just pour it slowly, just like you did the lemon juice. Sometimes I get a little orzo in the measuring cup when I scoop it out, but that's okay, no problem. You don't want to get a lot of orzo, you just want a little, mostly juice. And you keep beating it up, it's getting very, very frothy. This is where the creamy, velvety flavor comes in from the beating of the eggs and the lemon and the broth. Oh yes, beautiful. I'm going to get rid of these. There. I always take them out because I'm afraid that's going to turn on and I'm going to catch my fingers or something. Okay, so it's time to make the soup, a soup. So I happen to have a bowl with a little lip there, so it's nice and easy to pour. So you're going to pour this in very slowly and stirring the whole time. Truly, this is an absolutely luscious, velvety feel to the soup. That's the only way I can explain it. One of my gal pals that I gave it to, she's an Irish gal, lovely lady. She said to me the other day, Rita, that soup is so delicious. I was talking to my sister about it, she said, and I couldn't, she said, well, tell me what it's like. And she said, you know, I couldn't even explain it. I just said to her, I can't explain it. It just tastes like I'm eating velvet. And her sister was very, very confused by the comment, but I certainly knew what she was talking about because that's how I feel too. So when it's finished, you'll see all the froth on the top. It's exactly like it's supposed to be. And the other little trick to the soup is if you reheat it, which we do because I make a good pot all the time, you must reheat it on a very, very, very low fire. Like you could take 20 minutes to heat the soup when you need to reheat it because it is that important. Otherwise, if you try and do it fast and you bring it to a boil, it is going to make the egg cook, and now you've lost the velvety feel to the soup that's so important. Okay, so the spanakorizo, or the spinach and rice, is done. The avgolemono is done, so I'm going to plate the food. I so hope you all make these dishes because they are so very, very delicious. Let's get rid of that. Okay, I can shut this off. Get a little ladle. I'll ladle some soup in. The only thing I put on top of the soup is a little pepper. It does not need any salt because it is a salt-based soup with the broth. The broth is salty. Not super salty, but salty. You're going to see the frothy top. Hopefully one of the guys can get a good shot of that. And we'll use the spoon. Let's take out some spinach and some brown rice. You'll see that there's more spinach than rice, which is what I was looking for. I think maybe we can get a shot of that somehow. I'm going to top it with a little bit of crumbled feta. And this you do when you're ready to eat it and it's piping hot because you want the feta to melt right into the dish. Oh, just that amount is going to work perfectly. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of pepper on the soup. I am going to do a little tiny bit of salt and pepper on the spanakorizo. And there you have it, everyone. A beautiful side dish of spinach and rice and a beautiful start to your dinner with a lovely bowl of avgolemono Greek egg lemon soup. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the recipes today and I hope you all try them.